It is morning where I am at in Kingston, Jamaica. It is evening time where my guests are at in Ethiopia. Welcome to another Lounge Lime. I'm your host, Colleen Douglas. With me, I have two beautiful sisters. As you can see on the screen, Dr. Desta Megu, who is Mama Desta for me, and Abigail Megbar, the Bebe. Welcome, ladies. I see we've lost Abby, but I'm sure she will join us shortly. Sister Desta, it's so good to see you.
You too, my
Thank you.
dear. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you for sharing. So I'm doing it the way that we do it in novels, where you introduce the characters and you allow them to introduce themselves to the audience just by their actions. So if you walk into a room and someone asks you what you do, what do you say?
Yes, interesting question. I say that, first of all, I'm a mother. As everyone know, I always brag about my 10 children, my 10 birth children, and also a curator and a consultant. And I think those three things give a general, broad description, because mother implies one who nurtures, who educates, who shares, and then, of course, consulting, sharing again, and my curating, just creating spaces that allow us to think, to thrive, and to be able to express ourselves, whether it's for the purpose of social justice, for healing, for spirituality. So I think that best describes me.
Thank you, Sister Desta. Abigail, I see you've joined us again. I
Yeah.
actually, in speaking to Abby very briefly, I found her on IG and I see that you are a filmmaker. Can you share a little bit about what you do and also brag about what you've recently been selected to do through the UN?
Um, so I am a filmmaker. I'm a writer director. I'm working on developing my first feature fiction. And yeah, so recently I got selected by the British Council to as part of their curating fellowship program for moving images. Yeah.
Yes, I did. Oh, it was British Council, not the UN. Thank you for that. But I
Yeah.
want to ask you, what has put you on this path?
Well, I've always been interested in storytelling. I've been writing for as long as I could remember, just for myself, prose, short form, and different things. But when I went to college, I studied in California. There was a film that came out, and it was called Lady Bird. And part of the promotion for the film was that it was made by a female director. And so that's when everything clicked for me and I was like, oh, this is, and so I
Abby?
read more, I did some research, and yeah, and then I was like, this film is it's perfect. I love writing, I love directing, and um yeah, it all clicked for me, and then I decided to move back home and pursue it.
Okay, we're going to talk about home in a bit, but I want to go to Sister Desta's home. Sister Desta, I announced in our promotion that you are living in Ethiopia. But tell us a little bit about your path, how you ended up there, and where you started, because you are Jamaican.
Yes, born and bred in Jamaica, Havendale, the 1961, and then the family migrated, the typical migration story, the 1970s, to the United States, New York specifically. And the experience there was jarring, as you can imagine, in the 1970s, be it racism, colorism, and so forth. So anyway, music and the arts became a bit of an outlet from high school, organizing events to kind of get the Caribbean community and American community together. Long story short, after going to school, doing a law degree at the University of Florida and everything, I have been able to merge um, the arts, music, law, and everything, which culminated in a post as the managing director for the Bob Marley Foundation. Having managed Mrs. Marley and Augustus Pablo and so many others from the 80s to the 90s, But how I got here was, again, as managing director for the Bob Marley Foundation, to organize and coordinate with Nana Rita Marley and Sidella Marley, Bob Marley's 60th birthday, 21 years ago. So after we did the event, I said, it's really time to come home. My spirit said, just come home. And home at that time, I was thinking of Ghana because we were already established. When I said Nana Rita had the Rita Marley Foundation in Ghana, we're doing work there. So there was a base there. And Nana Rita said, well, Des, the people of the East, those are your people. You hold the East, I hold the West. And so, as a good student, I listened to her guidance. And since then, I've been here, and all the children have come here, the 4 younger ones educated here for a while. But it's really a critical life decision to make. And I have no regrets because I'm still able to continue doing what we did in the spirit of Pan-Africanism through the arts and creativity here in Ethiopia and in the wider Africa, because I'm still based in Ghana to some degree.
Thank you. And Abigail, I'm coming over to you. You said you studied in California and then you came back home. Home is Ethiopia. Where were you born?
Yeah, I was born in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Yeah.
You see how much Sister Desta gave me in her description of where she's from in Jamaica. So I paused because I wanted you to share that. But I will ask you though, what you've chosen to do, the type of stories you've chosen to tell, somewhat resists easy storytelling, is what I'm gonna call it. What made you make this choice?
Well, it comes from a place of authenticity, right? We want storytelling has to be truthful, I believe. And so in doing that, we have to dig deeper in the stories we're telling, the people, we want to make it dynamic. And for me, that's really important. And so, yeah, it is harder because it requires more research. It requires, um, yeah, more depth. But I think it's worth it. And I think it's the only way to do it.
I have to ask you this one, permit me. What was it like for an Ethiopian studying in the US?
It was very different. I feel like you don't realize who you are. Like as a person that's been raised in Ethiopia and been around people that look like me and are from the same culture, I've never really thought about my identity as an Ethiopian because it was just a given and it was a common collective identity. And then in going to America, that's when I realized I'm different, but it created a sense of pride because I knew who I was, I knew where I came from, I knew where and so for me, that created this extra interest to be like, how much do I know about my culture? How much, we have our own system of writing, we have our own system of like language and like, a lot of different things. So for me was like created this new interest to learn more about myself and my culture.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that response. Sister Desta, I want you to name a moment or a project that you've worked on that captures who you are and what for you find pivotal in your career.
I think it would be between Africa Unite, which was Bob Marley's 60th birthday event that we did here to over 250,000 people. That was so dynamic and so powerful, again, using music. And then also Rastafari, the Majesty and the Movement, which was an epic, iconic exhibition that was done at Ethiopia National Museum, which I curated in 2014. And not just because New York Times named it Exhibition of the Year, which that was certainly nice, but the impact to do that here in Ethiopia, 40 years after the Derg had overthrown the imperial family, the emperor, to see the sort of response that indeed Ethiopians do love their history, their heritage, where the emperor is concerned and what he represents, because it's about representation as well as who the emperor is. So I think that experience endeared me more to the people, the comments that I heard, especially from the elders who have been waiting for this moment of restoration, if you will, and reconnection with a past, a glorious past. Yes, with challenges, but certainly a past of a great identity that goes back millennia. So I would say that, and this is what influenced even the title of this short documentary that I was so happy to do with my young sister there, Abby, my daughter.
I was actually gonna go to the collaboration, but I'm happy you say the title, The Majesty and the Movement. And before I ask you, because we are going to share, the audience is going to be privileged to see the documentary. It's short, it's no more than 15 minutes, but we will share that with you because it tells the story, and we want you to receive this story on your own, and then we're going to come back and have the conversation. But before we go to the documentary, Sister Desta and Abigail, while you were talking about Ethiopia and what is Ethiopia for Jamaicans, for Rastafari, versus the Ethiopia they meet when they get there, I'd love for us to just use a minute to share that, and then we talk about the collab.
Absolutely. Again, it's not necessarily what we imagined, but it is what it is. It is home. It is Ethiopia. It is a geography, a land, a historical space where, again, in 1966, for those of us in Jamaica, I was 4 at the time, um, were able to get a sense of dignity and connectivity and ownership, if you will. Someone who said, yes, we love you. So just that fuel alone is enough to make us handle whatever challenges and lack of communication and lack of understanding that there may have been. That said, on the other side, Ethiopian people, I'm telling you, are the most patient people on the face of the earth. The love, the tolerance, but most of all, the patience. And even in our missteps in coming home and misunderstanding of culture and so forth, the generosity of spirit and patience is what has allowed us to remain here for decades. I've only been here 2, but we have those who have been, of course, as we know, in Shashamani since the 1950s, and many have now passed on. But nonetheless, I can honestly say with a full mouth that the relationship between Rastafari and the Ethiopians is one of endearing love, yes, curiosity, but certainly love, patience, tolerance, and generosity. I hope that wasn't more than a
Thank you so
minute.
much. Abby, no, it's okay. It's also okay
Yeah.
if it is more than a minute. But how did you end up collaborating with Sister Desta on this? Because she and I spoke about this documentary. As a matter of fact, she sent me an assignment in Jamaica. So how did you get involved?
I've known Dr. Desta for quite some time now. I first met her on this project called Saalit, which was a project that aimed to empower female artists in Ethiopia. And I was working on the documentation part of that project, and Dr. Desta was consulting and for that project. And so when I went, we met at a preliminary meeting, and I remember being very like enamored by her. Not a there's not a lot of women in art, and it was very inspiring. And I remember going to her the Studio Moambasa Gallery. And I just was fascinated by all the Pan African things there, and I was like, I need to learn. I need to learn from this woman. Um, and then I started an online art gallery called Sensul, and me and my partner had asked Dr. Desta to help us curate and teach us, and I think that's where it all started, and we've kept in touch ever since. Um, I'm no longer part of the online art gallery, but Dr. Dessa has kind of taken me under her wing, and so she has a lot of ideas, and she one day kind of, it was very divine. We always talk about this. It was divine that she reached out right when I won this fellowship for curating and was like, "Hey, I'm doing all these different projects. Come join." And so I couldn't say no. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. And because
She's a
sister, that's
bright star, Colleen. I had to capture her.
you tend to capture the bright ones, I've noticed. But so for those
Present
who are
company, Sister Colleen.
For those who are just tuning in, we are, as you know, you're on Reggae Online. Reggae Online is a platform all about reggae music, all about Jamaica. You can go onto the website and sign up for any of the music courses if you so desire. We ask you to tune in to the other programs that are also on the platform. This morning, it is my pleasure to introduce to you a documentary. Last week, April 21st in Jamaica, and across the world, I should say, we celebrated the 60th anniversary of Emperor Haile Selassie the first coming to the Caribbean. We know that he went Trinidad, Barbados, Jamaica, and Haiti. And so there was it's Diamond Jubilee, we called it. There was a big celebration here in Jamaica. There were observances across the world. And this documentary, The Majesty and the Movement, will give you a glimpse into what that means to our people. So, Michael, give thanks for sharing the documentary now, and we will return to talk about it in a few minutes.
Ethiopia, the land of forefathers, the land where all God loved to
His Imperial Majesty laid a wreath in memory of Jamaicans who gave their lives in both world wars. The tomb of the noted Jamaican patriot Marcus Garvey was also visited by the Emperor.
Jamaica is
I had always wished to come and visit Jamaica. Now, thank God, this wish of mine has been fulfilled. Upon arrival to Jamaica, I have seen more than I had expected. I have seen the progress of the people, and I have seen their determination to march forward in unity towards greater progress. I have also witnessed personally the extent of the feeling of the Jamaican people to the Ethiopian people. Again, I wish to take this opportunity of expressing my thanks to the government and people of Jamaica for the fraternal reception that was accorded to me.
The next stop for the royal party was King's House, the official residence of His Excellency the Governor-General, Sir Clifford Campbell. His Imperial Majesty was introduced to many dignitaries and members of the Rastafarian cult in full regalia. The Emperor afterwards presented gold medallions to the Rastafarians.
Now, it's a very significant moment for I and I, because prior to the Emperor coming, people took what we said for granted. We were mocked and jeered and so forth and so on. It was a validation for I and I. All those years of struggle and suffering, all those years of bearing the mocking and jeering. Yeah, it validated I and I presence there in Jamaica.
He did his hand like this. And when I look into his hand, Joe, there was the nail print, the mark, that black mark in the center of his hand. So, I said, what? That, And I just turned away my head. And, he went like this and gave a nod, and turned the other side. And so I said, my God, this is the man. And, I was screaming and telling my friends that this is him.
I also greet you through the 12 tribes of Israel. My name is Anne-Marie. At that time I was in primary school. I used to live in Harborview. So we were, I think it was holiday or Easter, around Easter time. And we were all on the street playing in the community. And we heard that there's going to be a motorcade of a king coming to Jamaica, and he's going to pass through on the way to the National Stadium. So he was driving in a motorcade. I can remember exactly how he looked, just like it was yesterday, with his field marshal hat and his suit, khaki suit. And we were waving to him. We didn't have any flags or anything because we just went there because we heard about it and we ran to see this man.
Your reflections on the belief that the emperor is the Christ.
The white man says that Jesus Christ is white, blue eyes, and blonde hair. The black man says is Emperor Haile Selassie. I don't see anything wrong with that.
On what is the belief based, that the emperor is the Christ?
The first one that crowns himself as King of Kings. The emperor and conquering line of the tribe of Judah.
Mm-hmm.
It says in the Bible that he will be a King of Kings and will get freedom for those who are in chains. So that way, why not Emperor Haile Selassie did the same thing? He did free the slaves in Ethiopia. He was the first emperor to speak out against slavery in the whole world.
And the unification.
Right. Mm-hmm. And most of the things that he did. So I don't see anything wrong with that.
Members of the faculty, student body, and prominent citizens gathered to witness the ceremony in which the honorary degree of Doctor of Laws would be conferred on His Imperial Majesty. Dr. Philip Sherlock, Vice-Chancellor of the University, conferred the degree. As a personal gift, the Emperor entrusted to the government the funds to erect a school. At the chosen site on Payne Avenue, hundreds gathered to witness the stone-laying ceremony. In appreciation of the Emperor's generosity, the government decided to offer a scholarship to an Ethiopian student tenable at the University of the West Indies. The foundation stone was laid by the Emperor himself.
My name is Aniona Jones, and I'm the principal of the Haile Selassie High School in Kingston, Jamaica. Haile Selassie High School was the result of a gift given in 1966. However, we opened our doors in September of 1969. Haile Selassie High School is a unique educational institution. We were birthed from a fervent belief that Jamaicans need to be empowered to own their own education and their own empowerment. This institution is a gift from His Imperial Majesty, in his 1966 visit to Jamaica. Now, as a school that was gifted to us by His Imperial Majesty and by extension the people of Ethiopia, we have a unique place on the educational landscape. We exist to honor education our way, by our people, for a different kind of empowerment, one that lasts multiple generations.
My name is Jacola Watson. I am in the class 11E and I'm currently the head girl at Haile Selassie High School. Feel comfortable, feel safe. It's a home away from home. And then every year we keep, my favorite thing to keep at Haile Selassie is the Founders Day because it's really nice. Okay, Founders Day, you see a lot of Rastafarian people come and them make you enjoy them, ask you questions, we give away prizes. It's like a mini Jamaica Day, but it's a better Jamaica Day. I feel connected. I feel like them don't make me feel different, even though we're not Rastafarian like them. They make me feel like we're family. The only thing I will be changing at Haile Selassie is like the infrastructure, like the better buildings.
The story that I heard was a kind of a little bit exaggerated, a kind of a fable legend. I'm not sure you might heard it from other Ethiopians, you know, which is there was a long drought in Jamaica, and when he went to Jamaica, when you see the plane like in the sky, heavy rain started to pour. Music can easily transfer messages from generation to generation, you know.
When His Majesty Haile Selassie I stepped foot in Jamaica in 1966, it wasn't just a visit. It was a moment that lifted people's spirit, and it shifted how we saw ourselves. It gave dignity to a faith and a culture that had long been misunderstood, and it planted something deep in the hearts of the people, especially in the youths of Jamaica. Now, when you look at what we do today through the Bob and Rita Marley Foundation, you're seeing the fruit of that same spirit. My father and my mother's message of unity, identity, education, empowerment, it didn't come out of nowhere. It was nurtured by that awakening, by that reconnection to Africa, to purpose, and to self-worth.
My grandmother is really the one who I've heard from about, you know, this moment in time when His Majesty reached to Jamaica. And it's really, Grandma was the you know, because if you check it, Grandpa wasn't in Jamaica at the time. So Grandma was really the reassurance and confirmation of the whole thing, you know. So I just remember when she would tell me that story, and when His Majesty was going through Jamaica, and then one moment where her and His Majesty eyes made four, and like His Majesty raised him palm, and then you see the mark in it, like a crucifixion mark of like what Christ did have in His hand. So that was really that realization, and you know, look at reggae music, look at the consciousness, look at the King consciousness, look what it has done and is doing throughout the world. All that we do is through the powers of the Most High. So I say all that we do is continue to spread that throughout the world. So I feel so it's just growing and impacting more people. Everything we do is through the powers of the Almighty. So everything that we do is influenced and directed by that. And we live in that way and strive to be in that way, live in a godly way, in a godly thoughts, in a godly, you know.
People who see this throughout the world will realize that even in the 20th century, with faith, courage, and a just cause, David will still beat Goliath.
Oh, thank you so much, Michael. Michael Sean Harris in the background is what we call in Jamaica, Abigail, head cook and buckle washer. He's the captain of the Reggae Online ship. Thank you for doing all the tech, Michael, because I am a kind of a fossil. Sister Dessa seemed to have dropped off. I'm sure she'll join us back. But Abby, since you're on, I just wanted to go with you. I know you may have come on this project a little late, but Sister Dessa has assured me that you saved the project. Can you tell us about your creative process in this?
Yeah, I think so. Since, as you have seen, there's a lot of archival footage in the documentary. So the first thing me and Dr. Dessa did was sit together and outline the story. And then once we had that, then we were able to put everything together. It was tight schedule. I didn't even think it was possible, but Dr. Dessa had the vision and it worked out.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I was off for a bit, so I didn't hear what you said after the film.
Okay, no, I actually brought Abby in to just talk about the choices, but why this documentary, Sister Dessa, and what informed some of your curatorial decisions? I liked, for me personally, I liked the representation. You started with Priest Douglas Smith out of Roots Foundation, who is a Bobo Ashanti Rastafari, and we ended up with young Skip Marley. So I kind of wanted you to just take us through those choices in terms of your own process.
Absolutely. So I think certainly there's a part of it that it is a personal story. Brother Kumi, Mortimer Planner, was one of my mentors and elders in the Rastafari movement and often spoke about the April 21st, 1961 visit. That's the day that the delegation that came from Jamaica met with the emperor in Ethiopia, April 21st, 1961. And so the date always resonated with me, and the stories that that Brother Kumi shared with me personally about the visit. So there was that personal connection, and of course, Nana Rita sharing deeper the story of the emperor. And if you can imagine, for Rastafari women in the 1960s, rare sight. So to be able to get that sort of account and then look at it in the context of where we are today, because all our celebrations are always historic. This is what he did, what he did, what he did. But what he did, what the Majesty did, was to plant a seed that has become a tree, where we have Principal Jones and our head girl there that can tell you about this incredible monumental facility that needs our support and attention. So it was a purposeful film, video, short documentary to make that gives inspiration. And as a matter of fact, it was 4 thematic areas. One was the prophecy, one was diplomacy, one was faith, and then finally inspiration. That's why we close with Skip. to show that there is continuity. It's not just a historic event, but a historic event that took root and is still evident today, that even that principal of the school, who may not have the same consciousness as we within the Rastafari community, she has the Pan-African consciousness and awareness to know that that facility is different. It is unique. It is special. And so it is my hope, working with Steve and the Ghetto Youth Foundation and other family members who have already been supporting the school, to use this as a tool, because what we need are tools in our toolkit to be able to pursue whether education, enlightenment, social justice, etc. So this really was an important tool. And I'm telling you, without Abby, it would not have happened, because we basically had to start from scratch. Honestly, there was just so much going on, and we were finally able to get back the hard drive on the Saturday the 18th. By Monday, the 20th, Abby was on it. And by the 21st, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Ethiopian time, we got what you saw. So although the thought and the process had been there, as you know, months before, what you saw, the final cut, was about 12 hours worth of work. Isn't that the truth, Abby?
Yeah. A labor of love.
Labor of love.
You know, it was easy to insert it into a 60-minute show because of the time, but I also felt like it was enough. Was there a deliberate strategy, Abby and Sister Desta, for you to make sure that this was short enough? You know, we talk a lot about young people and their attention span. And I do agree with you, Sister Desta. For years, I hear elders, perhaps not the ones who've experienced it directly, but ones who've gotten account of the story, talk about the moment and this history. So it was, I really love that people, you had ones in there who had absolutely no idea, and know your audience. So, which is why I'm asking the question about the time for the video. You mean it is short enough to keep their attention? Was that what it was, or was that because of resources?
No, actually, it was a recommendation from Burhan, from my son Burhan, who also worked on the project and consulted me extensively on it, because initially what Abby and I talked about was 20 to 30 minutes, actually. But then Burhan said to me, Mom, 15 minutes, you can say it all. It's a lot that you want to say. But I think if it's 15 minutes, it's easy to digest and people will want more. And so Abby has suggested, and I love the idea of developing this into a larger project, which she may be able to speak to. But the 15 minutes, I think, yes, attention span, two, being able to say what we want to say succinctly and get people to want more rather than bore them away from the topic. And as I said, to use it as a tool, a practical tool. So now, particularly for the Ethiopians in Washington, D.C. and other places in the diaspora that love Jamaica and love Haile Selassie, now we have something we can share with them that's tangible.
Thank you. Yeah, any words from you on that, Abby? You're a filmmaker, and I'm into marketing, so I tend to want to think about the audience. But as a filmmaker, how do you consider the audience in your decision-making processes?
Well, yeah, like Dr. Desta said, it's about drawing people in, and like as we were editing it, we had a lot of footage, but it made sense, and Burhan did suggest the 15 minutes, and then I think we got it, like, it kind of naturally, just as we were editing according to the outline Dr. Desta had developed, it just fit in perfectly into like 40 minutes and like a couple seconds. So yeah.
Yes, thank you. I did hint at this before, Mama D, about the relationship with Rastafari in Jamaica and Ethiopia. Is whether there's a tension between the Ethiopia they imagined and the one that exists. So if we go to where we are today with Rastafari in this space, is there that tension at all?
I think, yes, there is that tension, and for practical reasons. We were taken away hundreds of years ago. Our language, our culture, every aspect of our identity. Yet our DNA, that genetic memory remained. And so, being home in Ethiopia, we are pulling and relying on this genetic memory. And there are certain words that come out of our mouth, certain things that we do that are still emblematic of being African. And so we do find our way in, if you will. But I think what that tension does is it pushes us to be more and do more and not just rest on our laurels. We are Rasta. We know about Ethiopia. We know His Majesty. We have to dig deeper, because there's so much to learn about the culture, about the traditions, about the history that we even know in a sort of urban legend way, if you will. And then when you come here, one, you get confirmations of these amazing stories of triumph and trials. But by the same token, you're leaning into this discomfort to help you analyze the space and find your place within Ethiopia, because Ethiopia is so dynamic and so diverse. It's not one culture, it's not one language. So there is something for us all. And know that we have been officially recognized and we have permanent residency, which has been granted. That's been about for the last 7 years. Know that we have a legal instrument by which we can buy land, own businesses, and integrate into society. That instrument does allow us even so much more. So yes, it's tension and there's a lot going on, but there's a lot going on in the world. As Bob Marley sings, there's so much trouble in the world, but there's no better place I would love to be than here.
Oh, give thanks. I'm smiling because we think that Ethiopia gave us a lot here in Jamaica. It gave us His Majesty. And I'm curious, Abby, as a young woman in that space, do you think Jamaica gave Ethiopia anything?
Oh, it did. I was reflecting on this actually, that especially the youth culture has been heavily influenced by Bob Marley and his music and reggae music. There's so much love here, especially with the younger generation, for Jamaica, for the Rastafari, and a lot of, yeah, it's been kind of exciting to see that reverse and a lot of prominent artists in Ethiopia are influenced by reggae. And me and Dr. Desta were talking about this, that there's so many bumper stickers on all these different cars and taxis and everything, like the Jamaican flag everywhere. Like it's crazy, yeah. So we've definitely been influenced by Jamaica.
Everywhere.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm smiling as I'm yet to come your side of the world. Um, I want to go a little bit into, because Reggae Online is also a teaching platform. I want to go a little bit into curation, art curation, and the role of memory. So I want both of you could share really to tell us a little bit about what you produce. Because I have a literature background, I can speak to what I call canonical literature. That is literature coming out of the big spaces, the Oxford Press and that kind of thing. And I remember at university, I got introduced to African literature, and there were what my lecturers at the time referred to as non-canonical literature. Sid Dangaremba and all of those.
Achebe, yeah.
Well, Achebe kind of crept into the canon. So a lot of us got introduced to African literature in high school, this side, through Achebe's work. But there were, I remember, No Longer at Ease, Dangaremba's book, and there was one, Charles Mango's Son of Woman. I thought, these are so good, and it gave so much insight into Africa and the kind of life that we get out of West Indian literature was what I was experiencing with it. So I just brought that up for you to speak a little bit about art and what we do deliberately to curate the type of art that you do versus what we may consider popular. So I just want both of you to speak to us a little bit about that, about your choices when you're producing art.
Absolutely. And this was my first, I've worked on various projects, but this was the first one that was sort of my baby, if you will, conceptually and otherwise. And so if you will notice in the short documentary, there are two distinctive pieces of art. One is a blue and white exercise book, and the other ends with Emperor Haile Selassie and Empress Menen also on an exercise book. And that is from an artist by the name of Bahailo Bezeba, very good artist, professor, dear friend and colleague who sadly passed away before I could even tell him I had selected his pieces that were in my collection, because I thought it was relevant. What he does as a student, was in his 60s, uses um, exercise books in Jamaica. Americans don't know about exercise book, but in Jamaica, these exercise books with the multiplication tables and so forth. But during the time of the emperor, it had his picture on it, or his children, or Empress Menen. So we introduced that also into the documentary, based on the fact that, again, we are very intentional about sharing that this is the lasting legacy, right? The education. So being able to use the art was significant to me on a couple of levels. One, it not only showed the artistic level and talent that's available here in Ethiopia, but going back to Emperor Haile Selassie, who established the art school in 1956, first art school on the continent by Africans for Africans, and since then has presented some of the most incredible leading artists on the planet coming out of Ethiopia: Julie Meheretu, Tesfaye Gessa, Prince Meritafesa, and the list goes on and on. So I think being able to look at multicultural or multidiscipline, then the writing, the art, the music, even the music, what we did was very experimental, if you will, and some may even say taboo, because Kadasi, which is the chanting from the Orthodox Church, is a pure spiritual reverent chant that is done early morning, Kadasi. And so I've always had this vision of combining it with the Nyabingi, because whenever Ethiopians would hear Nyabingi, they would always say, oh, that sounds like our church music. So in talking to Jimmy Malcolm, Bob Marley's cousin, who, legendary composer and pianist in his own right, Abby and I spent, I don't even think, an hour with him, kind of sharing our thoughts. I think everybody, it's a bit taboo. But what he did was so graceful and so poetic and so beautiful that it did merge our spiritual cultures, being the Nyabingi and the Kadasi from the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, with, again, contemporary sound. So I think this short 15-minute documentary was able to encapsulate several forms: the music, the video, the art. And again, we were purposeful, because I could have gone on and, who's doing the interview, but we just wanted everyone and everything to speak for itself, so.
Abby, have we lost Sister Desta? Abby, are you there? Can you hear? And can you share anything?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I think, yeah, Dr. Dessa covered a lot of it, but yes, it was a work of bridging cultures and, trying to be, again, like I said earlier, draw people in and educate them. I think a lot of Ethiopians, and that's something we were talking to Dr. Desta, was what we heard, and what we've been told about the emperor Dr. Desta is there.
Go ahead, dear.
Oh, that's fine. You were doing good.
Oh, okay. But what we've been taught, or what we know about the emperor's visit, was that it was a drought,
Mm-hmm.
And then when the emperor landed in Jamaica, it started raining, which is the exact opposite I've heard of the story of what had happened in Jamaica. So it is about educating people and yeah, like bringing people together and showing the bridge.
Thank you. Sister, let's say no, while the music was being played, I went and grabbed my shaker. So this is probably outside of the recorder and a little banging on the piano is the only instrument I can really play. But
Yeah,
it's
me both.
but I could hear those elements in the music. And I think, you know, when you think of the complete product, it's how all of the arts kind of collide and how it's used to thread together. At the 60th anniversary here in Jamaica, both Michael and I worked at the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts, which carries 4 schools, 3 performing arts school, music, dance, drama, and then there's a visual arts school. That's perhaps somewhere again that we can think about, you know, just marrying programs between countries, a kind of sister city network that the Creative Cities umbrella encourages. But on the day, there was I should get that clip and send you, the students from the School of Drama actually did a play, a devised play from the works of, you know, Jake Homiak, Julia Bonacci, and Jalani Naya. They have a book forthcoming about Enter the Lion. But the students were given a year ago just some notes from elders, and they use it to devise a play. And that in itself, their interpretation and then conversation after with community. Again, for me, that was memory making and art. So I think the works are really connecting in that way.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned that, you know, it was important for me to be able to do this with an Ethiopian director
Yeah.
and an Ethiopian team, because too often we sort of overlook the wealth of knowledge that we have right here on the continent, and certainly out of Ethiopia in regard to Rastafari, history, the connectivity to Jamaica, and so forth. So I'm always happy and I'm thankful to have access to Addis Ababa University, Institute of Ethiopian Studies, where we've also done the Pan-African wing, to a plethora of really knowledgeable young switched on scholars. You know, a matter of fact, Professor Vereen Shepherd was there back in September doing a presentation. So to have Ethiopia as a home and a hub where we can have these conversations and dig into the archives even is really, really important. So that's exciting news to hear about what the youth are doing there.
Yeah, man, it is good because I really think what you've done with the Majesty and the movement is a very important strategy to engage young people, because they are receiving information completely different from what we're accustomed. And so if it has to be strategic. So I think that's important. I wanted you to ask, as we move to wrap, you know, is there anything Jamaicans and perhaps the world do not necessarily understand about Ethiopia that you'd want them to understand or want them to know?
Well, I think I would want to take a line from Brother Bob Marley that says, "We're not boasting, we're toasting." When we look at the empire and when we say we are the sons and daughters of a lineage, of royal lineage that comes from the line of Solomon and Saba and Sheba, it's not bragging and boasting. It's saying that we are dignified. It's saying that we have a history and a lineage that is uninterrupted, because it is uninterrupted. The bloodline was not annihilated. So the bloodline exists, the history exists. And so understanding that what Ethiopia means both to Jamaica and to the world has spiritual significance. And it has significance in terms of identity. Because who are we when we say we're a Jamaican? This is why Rastas from the early days, we were taught as youth people, you know, we're born in Jamaica, but we're Africans. That's our identity. And I think in looking at Ethiopia, not in the geopolitical Ethiopia, but in the wider lens of Africa. It helps us find a place where we do belong, where we see people that look like us, that sound like us, that do love us and receive us. And so I think from that point, which is to me very psychological, is important. And I don't take psychological aspect for granted, because in a time where that's what we're trying to do is heal and reimagine who we are, to know that we have this space here, this physical place with documents and manuscripts and connectivity to us. It's an important lifeline that no matter where we imagine ourselves and no matter where we choose to live, because the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, so we can live anywhere that we want. That's how it should be. But knowing that we have a place in the sun, I think makes it very, very, very special, significant, and timely. Because right now, with all the talk about who belong where and who don't belong where and so forth, that Ethiopia and Africa has embraced us. I think it's significant. I know it's a comfort for me, and at this time to watch people who are beginning to return home, whether permanently to repatriate or whether to visit or to study or vacation, that lineage, that Ethiopia of the ancient days and even of today now, because Ethiopia has changed so much. It's a technologically driven country. So many advances happening amongst all the challenges, but nonetheless, Ethiopia is that beacon of hope. It remains that beacon of hope and light, and Ethiopia shall stretch forth her hands.
Give thanks, Sister Nesta. Thank you, Abby. I wanted to do 60 minutes for the 60 years, and we're coming close to that. We've been speaking to Sister Desta Megu, Dr. Desta, attorney at law, curator, and enough things, and Abigail, young curator and filmmaker who made the Majesty and the Movement, the film, possible. And as we come, because we're talking about the Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie, and we're talking about Rastafari, I would love for us to end with any of your favorite quotes from His Majesty Mama D. I hope that you have one nearby. Knowing you might draw that from memory.
Well, actually, I just curated a major show at the Alliance Ethio-Francais to tell you how our king and our God is. Alliance Francais has these institutes all over the world, and they're all called Alliance Francais. Ethiopia is the only one where it's Ethio-Francais, Alliance Ethio-Francais. And so we did a major exhibition there, and one of the things that I recounted, just paraphrasing, was the speech of His Majesty when he inaugurated the art school. And he said that, again, paraphrasing, with opening the art school and educating a new generation of artists and exposing them to new technologies, it would prove to the world that we have continued to contribute to civilization as we did centuries and millennia ago with the creation of Aksum and ancient manuscripts and ancient iconic paintings that still exist in various monasteries. And so, again, that's one thing. And the second point, less of a speech and more of a statement, when he established the parliament and the various ministries, he could have made himself minister of mines or minister of finance or diplomacy, whatever. He made himself the minister of education, overstanding how important that was. And that's why this film and the Haile Selassie High School are so critical, because walking in his footsteps and overstanding how to utilize education, this is what he did when he planted that cornerstone, that seed of education in Jamaica 60 years ago. So I would certainly reiterate and emphasize the Emperor's emphasis on the arts and on education.
Give thanks, Sister Desta. I found my book too. Frontline. Thanks to Frontline.
Frontline, all the way.
I have one, and it is the hope that the students of the school here will also have copies of these, or at least have access to. Thank you so much. my sisters, I hope the next time we speak, I'm right beside you at home in Ethiopia. I hope Abby gets to Jamaica one day too. So thank you for joining us on Reggae Online. We've been speaking to Dr. Desta Magoo and Abby, forgive me, I keep calling you Abby and now your name has gone, your full name has gone out of my head. Please.
Yeah, you call me Abby. It's fine. It's I had to reconnect, and then when I re-signed in, I signed in as Abby. Sorry, but Abigail, Abby's fine.
Right, Abby, thank you so much. Any final words before we go?
No, thank you so much for organizing this. It's been really great seeing the love that the documentary has been getting, and it was very educational for me, being part of it. And I hope that more people would learn about what happened 60 years ago, and to carry the torch for the future and what it means today.
And you, Sister Desta? Thank you, Abby.
Yes, well said. I think to echo what Abby is saying, it is about the future and how do we use this as a broader lesson, that things that happen historically that are monumental, we don't just put them in a capsule and commemorate them annually, but use them as a living form of inspiration to be change agents and to fulfill our highest purpose. So I give thanks, Sister Colleen, always. And thank you for being a part of the film as well, because
I know
you were right.
In a credit.
Oh, you mean?
I'm joking. It's
Big
been
up,
a
big
pleasure
up.
speaking to these wonderful women on Lounge Lyme. We will see you next week. Remember to tune in to Reggae Online for Michael will put that up on the screen in a minute, but you can tune in to Reggae Online generally for all the courses that are offered. And yes, we are on every Monday for the Lounge Lyme. We went a little earlier live this morning because morning in Jamaica because of my sisters. It's way now what after 7, maybe closer to 8 o'clock in
7
Ethiopia.
p.m.
And we didn't want them to be out of bed at their bedtime. So thank you so much. And we give thanks.
Thank you. I'm a second Nalo. Thank you so much. No problem.